It's almost grilling season in many parts of the world. Don't get left out. Let's make some plant-based, low-fat hot dogs. All right, these are actually really easy, and they're just like a lot of the seitans that we've made on this show. But if you haven't seen those, or if you just want to know how to make hot dogs, we're gonna do it right now. So what's this in my hand?
That is tofu. It's roughly 1/4 of a block, 4 ounces of firm tofu.
Now, this was frozen and then thawed. You don't need to do that. See all the liquid in there? That's a good thing. You want the liquid. Trust me. Without the liquid, you're gonna have to add water. So just don't press it. Don't do anything to it. Just take it out of the package, get 1/4 of a block, drop it in there. Next.
There's something on the table that might shock and surprise you if you're a longtime viewer.
I actually have 3 measuring spoons here. You might be wondering why I'm going to measure. And it's not because I have to be like all anal about it. That's not why. It's because this is a small recipe. It only makes about 4 hot dogs. And some of the measurements are 1/4 teaspoon. And you know how hard it is to eyeball just 1/4 teaspoon? I don't want to have the same thing happen that happened with the molasses in the barbecue sauce. It had like extra shades of barbecue in there because there was too much molasses. So,
which was fine in the barbecue sauce because it just gave it more flavor. But there is
some of these things are strong. Sorry. Some of them are strong, and I don't want too much of them. So we've already talked too much about it. Let's go.
Garlic powder, 1 teaspoon.
Alrighty. I could probably eyeball this. But... Next.
Onion powder, 1 teaspoon.
I worked on this recipe quite a bit. It's taken me a long time to get a good spice combo for hot dogs. Kind of shocking, some of the stuff that goes in it that I wouldn't have thought of. And once I started adding those, that's what made all the difference.
Smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons.
And the other funny part about this is there's a lot of different types of hot dogs that people like. So this may be to your liking. This may not be exactly to your liking. I am a fan of the Coney Island style hot dogs. So that's kind of like your Nathan's and stuff like that. Those kind of hot dogs. So this is sort of along those lines.
All right, now we need to get the ground coriander. This is going to be 1/2 teaspoon.
And as far as precision goes, the smaller you go in a recipe, the harder it is to be precise. And that's why I'm using the measuring spoons. I wasn't gonna, and then I saw 1/4 teaspoon of anise, and I was like, oh boy.
Next up is 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and we always use fresh ground nutmeg.
I have this tiny little
because it just tastes so much better.
Now this I'm gonna eyeball because there's no way I'm gonna capture all of it as it's coming out, but I'm also gonna try to not file my fingers down.
Yeah, don't file your fingers. There are no fingers in this recipe.
But nutmeg is one of those things that I never would have thought to put in this, like nutmeg and hot dogs. But it's a thing.
Yeah.
And when possible, try to use fresh nutmeg. It really does make a huge difference in flavor. Next.
1/4 teaspoon of aniseed.
This is one of those things that it smells really nice, but too much is just going to be too much. So I have to try to eyeball 1/4 teaspoon, even though I can't really measure it into this totally well. It's all right. If you have ground anise, that works too. Just use 1/4 teaspoon.
If you have a shaky top like this one does, you can just pop that shaky top off. And
you know,
it's a lot easier to
we're doing it in front of a camera. I didn't think to do that at the exact moment. It's okay.
Next up is allspice. We're using 1/4 teaspoon.
Okay. Allspice is another one of those things. I love it, but it gets very powerful very fast. Smells like Christmas.
Yeah. And some people get confused by the term allspice because I think it's actually said differently in different areas. And
this is ground Jamaican allspice.
Yeah, it's an actual thing. It's not a combination of spices.
Yeah, it is its own thing.
Don't take the name literally. Then we need 1/2 teaspoon of ground mustard.
It might be strange to add mustard to a hot dog, but it's some of the flavors that you're used to in a hot dog. When you put them into the hot dog, it helps to embellish the overall flavor of the hot dog.
1/2 teaspoon of celery seed.
Making it more hot dog-like overall. See, now I can take the lid off. All right.
Wasn't that so much
Yes,
easier?
it was. You're right. I didn't think of it in the last one.
Sorry, I didn't crush your
No,
dreams.
it's totally okay.
Salt.
Now,
and yes, we are a low salt in general, but it's hot dogs.
before anybody freaks out, It is 2 teaspoons of salt. So if you want to use less, you can. But hot dogs are one of those things like they're salty. They're meant to be salty. If you leave it out, which I have tried leaving it out, it doesn't quite taste the same.
And that's because of sausage. Hot dog
They are
is part
sausage.
of the sausage family, and the way sausage got its name is from the root "sal," which is salt.
Yep.
All right, now we're gonna put
And Roman soldiers were paid in salt.
They were.
That's where the term "worth your salt" comes from.
A full tablespoon of white wine vinegar.
Oh, you jumped ahead.
I did dry and then wet.
Do we have any more dry?
And no.
No.
Well, except for the vital wheat gluten,
Okay.
but that's a different.
So a tablespoon, which is also known as 3 teaspoons. And if you don't have white wine vinegar, you could use red wine vinegar. You can even use rice wine vinegar. Any of those will work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use distilled vinegar. It's going to have a stronger flavor and probably not as good. Though, I mean, if you really wanted to, you probably could.
Sure. And now for some sweetness, Brian's just gonna put his finger in there. I'm joking.
I was going to say you're going to do it.
A teaspoon of maple syrup, because we don't need these to be too sweet.
Yeah, you just want to take off some of the harshness of some of the ingredients. So it's a teaspoon.
Yep.
You know what? It's too sticky. I'm eyeballing it.
Now, I believe you want to blend this before adding the last ingredient. Is
Yes.
that correct?
So at this point, by the way, this is all in a food processor, if you didn't know that. I'm going to put the lid on and blitz it. Be back in a sec. You want it to go to a smooth paste, so just obliterate it. It's fine. Okay, so I pulsed it a few times, and then I just ran it for like 30 seconds. I did scrape down the sides a little bit, but you're looking for it to be, smooth. But at this point, it's not a hot dog yet. And it's not going to ever be a hot dog just the way it is, because we need something to hold it together. Yeah. And to add some bulk to it, and that's where Vital Wheat Gluten comes in really, really nice. This is, if you've watched our show a lot, you'll find that this is similar to my tofurkey clone recipe. It's very similar to it. So I need the Vital Wheat Gluten.
Okay. Today we're using Anthony's because it's a good brand.
And it's what we always use. I've not found a lot of differences in the different brands. So as long as you can get Vital Wheat Gluten, it's fine. Some places call it gluten flour. They're actually the same thing. People get confused on that often. And for this, I'm using about a half cup. Not going to get too crazy. To answer the question that someone's going to ask, yes, you really do need to use Vital Wheat Gluten for this particular recipe. There are probably ways to make it without Vital Wheat Gluten, but for this recipe, yes, you really need to use Vital Wheat Gluten or it will not work.
Do you want to mix it a little bit with this?
No.
Okay.
Nope, it'll
I
mix.
didn't know if it's going.
Nope.
Okay.
Goes back into the food processor. Blend this back up. It'll form like a ball and start chasing itself around inside the food processor.
Kinda like
You
a dough,
want that.
right?
Yeah. It forms a dough, and it'll even start to form some gluten. So I'll be back in just a sec. So after I remove the blade, scraped on the sides a little bit, it looks much more hot dog-like, except it's in granule form. We don't want granular hot dogs. So what I like to do is I just use the spatula and kind of push it together a little, and it does come together really, really easily. Don't even need to use a spatula for this if you don't want to. I'm scraping down the sides a lot because, you paid for all that stuff. I'm not wasting it. Well, I paid for it. You would pay for your own. And out onto a board as kind of neatly as you can so it doesn't just spray everywhere. I may or may not be speaking from personal experience. Okay, so now I have it on the board. Now I'm just going to start molding it into a mass. And what we're doing is we're kneading it a little bit too, because the food processor does a great job of mixing it together, but it also chops all those gluten strands apart. So we want to get them all back together again. Usually just a minute or two to knead it, and it comes right back together. As good as you need it to. It doesn't need it to, get it? It doesn't really have to be like super firm, solid together. You just want to get it close. Now, I'll just be honest right now, these do not have casings. So if you're used to hot dogs with casings, this is not it. There are ways to do that, but that's a little beyond what we're looking to do with this particular video today. These are just pretty simple hot dogs just to keep you in the spirit of grilling season. Okay, once I have it more or less as a solid mass, I like to spread it out a little bit, get all the little bits, and make it like a square. The reason I do this is because it's easier to visualize cutting it when it's roughly a square shape, rectangular shape. Because now I can just go, all right, that's half. And then that's half. And that's half.
So now we have 4 equal-ish parts.
If you really want to measure them with a scale, feel free. I don't find it all that big of a deal. It's just not. All right, so to shape them, we're going to use parchment paper and tinfoil. The parchment paper is really just to keep your food from touching the tinfoil. Some people are sensitive to that, and we want to respect that, so we try to not show it, even though in reality, I usually just wrap them in tinfoil. And I just kind of shape it into a rough sausage shape, something like that, on the paper, okay? And then here's the real trick. You bring from the back and roll over, and then you grab your scraper and you start to press it back. You hold the bottom and just kind of rock it back and forth. And it makes a nice round shape and lengthens it, so it narrows it and lengthens at the same time. Makes a hot dog shape. Don't go too hard because you don't want to tear the paper. Something like that is pretty good. Then keep it really tight, roll it up. Twist the sides. And then tinfoil. Now with the tinfoil, I like to have at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches on each end. And I'm going to do essentially the same thing. But if you notice, I have a lot more length of this because I want to make sure I have it covered a couple of times just to make sure that they don't blow out. Because if they blow out, they get soft and spongy and they're not as nice. They're still edible.
And they don't look like hot dogs
They don't
anymore.
look like hot dogs. They look like deformed hot dogs, like with bulbous ends and stuff. It's just not good. So there is our 4 hot dogs. Now I'm going to put these into our Instant Pot with just about a cup of water in the bottom for
25 minutes.
25 minutes on pressure cook. If you do not have an Instant Pot or don't want to use an Instant Pot, you can also just put these into a steamer. Any kind of steamer works. But for steaming, you're probably going to need more like 45 minutes. So we're going to take care of that and we'll see you in a bit. Hot dogs are done cooking. They sat in there until the little thingy fell. That's about it. If you're steaming them...
Instant Pot.
Yeah, of the Instant Pot, yeah. If you're steaming, obviously, 45 minutes or so. Some people manage to be able to save the tin foil. I could never do it. Nope, I already tore it. Look at that. See? It's like instant tear. But I'm going to unwrap one of these. Did I actually do it? Probably not. It's sticking together.
Ooh.
That is the first time in the history of
Brian.
using tinfoil that I have ever been able to do that. And unroll it from this, and
Look at that.
we have a perfect little hot dog.
Isn't that beautiful?
These other 3, obviously, we'll unroll them later. But for now, we need to taste this thing. But I wanted to show you. See, it's got a little bit of bounce to it. It's got the spring. Very, very similar to a hot dog, and it smells like a hot dog. Okay, so after we finished filming, I realized something, and hot dogs are still in their wrappers. I haven't even taken them out yet, but this is something that's important. These are now cooked, but they're not necessarily ready to eat. You want to heat them up again. You can throw these on the grill. You can throw them in a frying pan. You can throw them in an air fryer. You can do whatever you want to do. You can even bake them if you really want to. I don't know that I would microwave it because they might actually like explode. But you can finish them off whatever way you like before you put them on the bun. Ours were just still really, really hot from coming out of the Instant Pot. You can also eat them that way too. Okay, we got our hot dog in a bun. Now, lately I've been using, is it Nature's Own keto buns that have very low carbs, but a lot of fiber. And I'm finding that we really like those, and it's helpful because, if I'm going to eat carbs, I want it to be like unrefined grains, beans, stuff like that. So for these, white bread, not so great for that. But these are a reasonable replacement.
And the Arnold Keto still retains the softness that you anticipate for a bun without that instant dissolve.
Well,
in
you're
your
saying
mouth.
Arnold. These are Nature's Own.
I'm sorry.
There's 2 different kinds, and they're actually both good. We've had both.
Nature's Own, I think, is even better. That's
Yeah, the Nature's Own is a little bit better.
You gotta put the lid open if you want.
Yes, I know. I was waiting until I can actually talk about this. Some people consider ketchup to be sacrilege on hot dogs. I'm not some people. Depends on where in the country you're from. This is Heinz Simply, so it's got no artificial sweeteners in it, no high fructose corn syrup, that sort of thing. Of course, you can use any condiments that you really want, as long as you use Gluten spicy brown mustard. It is really the only kind of mustard I like. Although the Coleman's spicy, the English mustard, that's really good
In the
too.
little jar. Yeah.
Just be very careful with that one because it is hot mustard. Anyway, ladies first.
So, am I supposed to eat half of this, or am I just going to take a normal
take
bite?
a bite.
Okay,
Take a bite.
Thank you.
You don't have to eat half of it in one bite. We did these as chili cheese dogs fairly recently, and it was really, really
They
good.
were very messy, but they were delightful.
Mm-hmm. It's got like, usually it has the right texture, the right chew. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. It is not exactly the same as a hot dog. It's just not going to be. But this doesn't have the fat, doesn't have all the nitrates and all that kind of stuff in it. But it tastes really good. With the ketchup and mustard on it, when we made these as chili dogs, like I said, you would not know
They
it
were
wasn't.
fantastic.
So, really great substitute.
And that, I think, is part of the trick for any of these meat replacements.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it's the toppings that are really going to add the flavor. And if you think about it, if you ate the other way before, it was really the toppings that made it the best thing ever anyway. So
Exactly.
continue that method with the new lifestyle.
Now, as far as preservation, long-term storage, once these are cooked, unwrap them, freeze them, and then what I like to do is freeze them separately, like put them on a tray, freeze it, and then throw them into bags. That way you can pull one out at a time.
Yep.
If you throw them all in a bag, they're going to freeze together,
Yep.
and it's a lot harder to separate them. And you can freeze them for months, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
In the fridge, they're probably good for a week or two, most likely. There's not a lot of things in here that are fatty that are going to spoil or go rancid. So that's one huge advantage to a lower fat style of cooking.
This is a great product to batch process and
yeah.
freeze, as Brian mentioned. So that
As
way,
long as you can cook that many at a time in your Instant Pot. I think we can fit maybe 8 or 10 in this one. We have a larger Instant Pot. I could probably fit a lot more in there.
now, because they're wrapped in tinfoil and everything, could you stack them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. That's what I say. I could probably fit 8 or 10 in our smaller Instant Pot and 20 maybe in our other one. And then, like I say, just let them cool, unwrap them, individually freeze them, and you're good for hot dogs for, I don't know, maybe a week or two. 20 hot dogs. That's good for like a week, right?
If you ate it every day,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I'm just joking. I don't advise eating these every single day. But anyway, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Bistro.